Later this month is the JCK show in Las Vegas, and I am so excited that I will be in the booth with Gesswein and demonstrating quite a few different tools. And one of them is going to be the Badeco MX-4, and that's what I would like to show you today. It is quite a robust system, so let's unpack this and jump in and see what it's all about. So naturally we have all their instructions, and then we've got a lot of different components. So the first component in this box is going to be our motor, along with a rotary handpiece that has been attached to this. We also have a cradle that you can hold the motor on if you want to keep this down on your tabletop versus in the system. We have our power cables, an adjustable foot pedal, our stand, and last but not least, we now have our control unit. And as you can see here on the back, we have where we plug everything in. When it comes to putting our stand together, we do want to use this X base. That is going to give us the most stable base that we can have with 4 different motors. That's going to have a bit of weight to it. So I want to install it so that my X is kind of skinny, if you want to look at it that way. And so I could install it either way, but like I said, I want the skinny X. So I'll use these 2 holes here. When it comes time to installing our control box, just simply tighten up those screws, and now we're ready to plug everything in. Let's talk really briefly about some of the way that this system is set up, because it is very different from other micromotor systems that we have been working with in my videos in the past. When you have a Badeco system, you are going to have both a motor as well as a handpiece. And the handpiece is going to determine what its predominant job is. So in this case, I have a strong motor with a rotary handpiece, and in this case, I have a nano motor with a rotary handpiece. And here I have 2 additional nano motors, but notice the difference of the size. So if we look at this first nano motor, you're going to see that these 2 are the same size motors. But then we've got this one here, and that's going to have a little different function. So the motor is going to help determine like how fast something is and maybe how strong of a stroke it's going to have if you're working with, let's say, a hammer handpiece. And you'll notice here I have 3 different hammer hand pieces, as well as a filer hand piece. And again, each of them are going to have some different functions. Now I'm going to do a whole video on just the accessories, the motors, and the hand pieces. So for right now, as I set up the MX-4, I need 4 motors. And you don't have to have 4, it gives you the ability to hold 4. So I've got 4 motors, and then I have, in this case, 6 different hand pieces that can go with these. Now, as far as the nano motors go, any of these hand pieces are going to be interchangeable. Now, when I get to the strong motor, these hand pieces are all nano hand pieces, so they will not work on the strong. And if I take off this strong hand piece, it is not going to work on the nanos. But strong hand pieces will work on the strong motor, nano hand pieces will work on the nano motors. Installing a motor to a handpiece is actually really simple. You just line it up and it will simply twist into place. And now it's ready to go. Now when it comes to plugging things in, everything is pretty well labeled. So our DC power mode goes here. On the top we also have our foot pedal. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. The only one that really kind of matters which one it goes into is going to be number 3 here, and that one needs to be our strong motor. So if I select that one, get this guy plugged into place, and then I can screw this down and lock it in. Okay, and from there, I can then go ahead and arrange things however I want. And now I can just follow my cords and put everything where they belong. So this one is our number 1, number 2 here. Our number 3 is our strong motor, so the big guy. And I twisted that one. And then we have our number 4. And now everything is set up and ready to go. Okay, let's take a look here at our control unit. There's quite a bit here and it looks a little bit intimidating, but once you get working with it, and I'd say seriously about 5 minutes, and then you'll kind of have it down. So notice we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's going to indicate and correlate to our plugs on the bottom for each of these hand pieces. The only one that really makes a difference is going to be number 3, and that's just because it has that larger holder for the strong motor. All the rest fit our nano motors. Your on-off switch is going to be right here. It is very important that all of your hand pieces that are plugged in the back are seated and situated in their slot on the front when you turn it on. If you do not have them seated properly, the control unit does not recognize that there's going to be anything there, and it will not give any power to that particular spot. So now when I turn this on, I'm going to come to either a blue or a green light. The blue light, and I don't know if that's showing up here on the video or not, but the blue light is going to indicate that it's going to be operated by the foot pedal. If I want it to be operated here by this dial, I'm just going to push this, and now I have a green light. And you'll notice that we already have something set in this as well. So when I pull out one of my options, it's not necessarily going to go by this, it's going to go by whatever was set last for the particular item that I'm going to use. So here in the middle we have forward and reverse. Now it says L and R for left and right, and it's going to be a little bit confusing because L is for the reverse and R is for the forward operation. That's really only going to really apply to our rotary hand pieces for the forward and the reverse, but there's also like 3 spots on this. So we've got that forward position, we have a neutral position. When anything is in neutral, nothing is going to work, okay, and that's just because it's set neutral. Or we have the reverse option. So now when I pull something out, it will begin to operate. Okay, usually I'm going to be working in that forward position. Then we have our third toggle. This is going to control our foot pedal. We have a little icon down here. So if I have this up, and let's say I have a setting here for this hammer hand piece. So if I pull this out, notice that it jumps to 35 and we're on green. But if I push it onto blue, and it's now set at 74 because it remembers whatever I had set last. So now we're on the blue, which indicates the foot pedal. It's at 74, and this toggle button is up. Now that means that when I push the foot pedal, it's going to jump right to that 74% setting, and that's going to be 74% of my speed. So if I jump right on that, it just automatically goes there. Doesn't matter how slow or fast I have, or I push down on that foot pedal. Now, if I push this down, now my foot pedal acts as a variable rate. So if I come in slowly, I can slowly increase, and it will stop at the top of that, which is going to be about my 73, 74%. Okay, and now I take my foot off the pedal, it stops. But if I come back here to my foot or the hand, it will automatically go back to wherever it was set last time, which was 35. And now if I wanted to stop this, because again I'm on the hand setting, I can just slip that in there. And I could stop that the same way even if I pushed on the foot pedal. Now here's one of the cool things. You saw that if we have, in this case, a hammer hand piece, but now I have a rotary hand piece right here. So if I pull this out, my rotary hand piece starts, and when I put it back in, it stops. And then I can come down here to the next item, and in this case I have a filer piece. But notice that each one of them starts and stops, okay, and you can't hear it, but this rotary hand piece is going. So they're each going to start and stop just by placing them into this holder. And that is going to give us a lot more efficiency when it comes to working, especially if I'm, let's say, stone setting and polishing and drilling. Then I can have each of my hand pieces set up for their task. Pull one out, get right to work, put it back in, pull out the next one, get right to work with that one, pull out the next one, do whatever its job is. Now, if I happen to have one hand piece out and I pull out a second, nothing happens to either one because the machine itself says, well, I don't know which one you want to use. So when I put one item back, then the other will start up again. Now, as I said, this is an extremely versatile machine, and you are going to have 4 motors if you are going to run it like I have it set up here. It does not require 4 motors to operate. You can do it with just 1 or 2, with the idea that maybe you will expand your system later on, because this is definitely not an inexpensive system or setup. Now, I know that I've just gone very briefly over the machine itself, and I didn't really talk about any of the hand pieces. And like I said earlier in the video, there is a whole other one coming, because the way that this system works is very different when you have a hand piece as well as a motor, and then you have a number of options there. So we'll take a look in the next video at what I have here in my studio and how I use that. If you would like to try this system out yourself, come and see me at the Gesswein booth this year, 2024, at the JCK show in Las Vegas. It starts May 31st, goes through June 3rd, and I will have quite a lineup of Badeco tools. As always, if you guys have questions, please drop those down in the comments section. I'll be happy to answer them for you, and we will see you guys next time, and hopefully at JCK.